Alright, I'm cavity waxing the door in here where I had the repairs done. Just got that on, but while I'm in here I noticed that down inside here you can see where there was a sound deadening pad at some point. Must have just fallen off or disintegrated. I'm going to replace that. I've got one from 3M here that I've just been hanging on to that I can replace it with. I need to get some more. May need one for the other door. I haven't looked in it yet, but this is about the perfect size for this door. I'll put it in there. I'm gonna have to heat it up and get it nice and soft and tacky so it'll stick, but that'll go in there. And then I also noticed all along the intrusion beam there was a bead of foam there to keep the door skin from vibrating when you shut the door and when you're driving down the road, and keeps it from fluttering. So I'm gonna have to replace that foam along the length of that intrusion beam. And I don't think I have any of the foam. I've got some NVH foam that would work, that doesn't expand, but it may end up running through that gap. I may have to get a tube of the expandable foam that would go on that. I'll see what I've got, but I'll go ahead and get this sound deadening pad in there. Probably gonna have to go in from under here so I can get the whole piece in and stick it to the skin. That will help the noise and it'll actually make the door shut quieter and be quieter when you're driving too. So I'll get that put in. If I need to get some more, I'll get one for the other side. All right, I've moved on to the spoiler. This one here, this stud's got some kind of a head on the back side of it, so it feels like it's locking into something inside the spoiler where this will spin, but I can't get it to stay locked in place, so we're just going to have to use gravity when we go to install it. I've run the nut through, I've got a tap here that I'm running through all these nuts just to free them up because they're hard to turn. So that way this can be spun on by hand, hopefully, until it gets snug, and we'll just leave it. But the other ones, these look like they were just bolts that had the ends cut off. And they've got something, there's a little rust on the end, so something was there. So they were just cut off from a bolt or something. And then that end was turned down in here. So I've gotten all three of the other ones out. And these will actually bottom out on the inside of the structure. Right there, and that's plenty to bolt it on, but I still want to lock it in place so that it can't just work itself loose and the spoiler come off the car. So I'm going to take this. I've run the tap through these holes and the nuts. So I may run this through a die just to clean it up. What I'm going to do right now is panel bond these in place. That way they can't come out. So I'll run them down to where in the front here they're bottomed out, and I'll just let it sit there overnight and cure, and then that'll lock it in place, and I can be able to turn the nut back and forth, and it won't just spin the stud. So I'll do that on this one and those two over there. This one I'll just have to kind of pull on it as I tighten it down when I get it in there, but I'll have at least three of them bonded in. All right, the sound deadening pads and the NVH foam are in. I just put it along the beam everywhere I could get to it. So it's all the way down to the sound deadening pad there. A little bit of a gap where I couldn't get any, and ran it down through there, and then some more. I don't know if you can see that, but down on that end, there's another bead of it. Go to the other side now. The pad over there's a 3M pad I had left over, and I bought some Evercoat Q pads. Basically the same thing for this side, and then some other places like in the quarter panels it will need them. Now that foam will set up and stay flexible. I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'll push on the skin. You probably won't be able to tell this, but see, I can push the skin in and out. I don't think you can see that, but it's still stretching. So as the heat in the skin builds up in the sun, tries to expand, it'll allow it to without pulling back on the door skin. And that'll keep it from fluttering going down the road. Took about a whole tube of that NVH, so I'll have to get some more if I need to do anything else. Okay, moved on to the spoiler. It's got a lot of ripples in the center here. and the outside's not perfectly flat either. So I'm going to go ahead and just, now that I've took it down with 180, I'm going to put a layer of body filler here on the other end, and then one long strip through the middle here, and just enough to level it off. I don't want to paint straight over this. It's got too many ripples, and underneath it's going to be fine. It's not going to be seen. But just out here and along the top, and then down the other side will be plenty for this. And then I'll prime the whole piece. And while the body filler's setting up on that, I'm gonna get the mirrors ready to go here. I've got the brackets bolted to them. I can hold them to paint them and all. This actuator, I noticed the glass was really loose in it, so I couldn't leave the glass in it because it was moving around so much that it might, as I turned the handle here to paint it, the glass may have actually touched the paint. So I ended up taking it off, and the actuator inside was, let's see if I can show you here. It was just in about 5 or 6 different pieces. So I just went ahead and popped it out. It wasn't working anyway. Looks like something got in there, was chewing holes in it, and almost like a mouse or something. It chewed it up. It had just been gnawed on. So anyway, it's out now. I don't have to worry about the glass touching the frame of the mirror here while I paint it. So I'll just mask off everything in here. And this one, I'm just gonna mask off the glass, which I wanted to do here too, but since the glass is moving so much, I couldn't do it. I'm gonna go ahead and get some body filler on this, and I'll get to sanding on the mirrors as soon as the filler goes on. All right, I've got the mirrors and the spoiler ready. I've got about 3 hours of body work in the spoiler, getting it straightened out. Got a layer of body filler on the ends and the top, and then another layer of glaze on top of that. And then I had to fill in all the pinholes in the fiberglass. But I'm gonna go ahead and just prime. I've got my new spoiler attachment here, just threaded rods that go into the mounts. And then these little brackets here hold these things on with wing nuts, just tension on this rod here. And I'm going to be holding these mirrors to spray it. That's just a hook for me to hang it on when I get done spraying. So I'm going to go around back here. I'm not going to worry too much about under here. The other piece that bolts to this will cover all this up, but I'm going to prime around at least to this edge, but I'm not going to tape it off. I don't want any hard lines in it. So this is ready to go. I just need to wipe it down with some cleaner real quick, and we'll be good to go here. I'm just going to prime the outsides of the mirrors where they had some rock chips in them, but it's really all they need. All right, I'm starting with the spoiler. It's going to need at least one more coat than the mirrors do, maybe even a 4th coat. filler's going to get probably at least 2 more coats, maybe 3. And now that I've sprayed it, I'm seeing all my pinholes that I missed. Every time I'm painting something fiberglass like this, I end up doing this, finding everything. You can see these right here. Won't really focus on that, but there's a lot of pinholes showing up now that I'll have to go back and just fill those in with some glaze. Always happens on fiberglass. There's one big one in the back there. See that? Got everything I could see when I prepped it, but those are most of the areas where I didn't put glaze or I took it all off. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm completely done. I'm going to have to fill those pinholes in later whenever I get everything blocked out. Alright, I've just gotten this thing prepped with some filler in a few places. There's a gouge in it here. I've just sandblasted these areas so I can get the paint out of the gouge and also rough it up for the filler. One big nick right there. This end is cracked. You can see that flex or not. That's got a crack in the end of it, and it actually started on the inside right there. So I've got all that sandblasted. I'm going to come back here and put some filler that will harden up back behind here to stiffen it. Filler adhesive, and out here it'll just be the flexible repair adhesive, just as cosmetic repair in the outside. So I'm going to put that adhesive on the inside there. I don't think I need that anywhere else on this piece, and I'll have to check the other one. I don't have that one prepped yet. I'm going to look and see if there's any cracks inside it. If there is, I'm going to go ahead and prep that spot. While I've got the adhesive out, I'll put it on both of them. And then I'll get the outside of the other rocker panel ready to go. And then I'll do all the cosmetic filler at once. Right, they're ready to go. Didn't need much filler. There's one of the repair areas right there with the little chips on the corner. And you got the areas in the back repaired. Get the outside finished. Same thing on this side. That's where the crack was. Just gonna wipe them down now and get some primer on. All right, I've got a coat of adhesion promoter over the raw plastic already, so this is just gonna be on top of that. I'll put at least one more coat, maybe a third over the places where I put the filler, but it really doesn't need a lot of build. All right, they are done. I actually put a third coat since I had some left. I put it across just the visible area and the top edge. I'm gonna get a little guide coat on them now. So when I get ready to sand these, they'll be ready to go. I'm gonna start on the rear bumper now. I think I've got it in storage. I gotta get it back out. Probably get the inner structure of it taken out, the reinforcement, just so I can patch the backside. It's got a big crack in it, but you'll see that in a minute. All right, I decided to work on the rear bumper later on, just do it as its own project. I've got a lot of work I need to do to that, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this trim done so I can get it on the car. I've got the rockers, the quarter glass trim in the back, and this is the roof beam right here. It goes across the roof. It's a welded seam between the rear part of the roof and the main part. We've got the mirrors over here hanging up. I'll do those as well. That way I can get all this stuff back on the car and get it out of the way. All right, I've got to add flex additive to what's left for this. I didn't want to put additive in it, just spray everything with it. That's just a waste of that expensive flex additive. So I'm going to add that to this if I have enough. I may have to mix a little more, then do the flex additive, but that's got everything coated that didn't need the flex additive in it. So now I'm going to go ahead and mix that. I'll be back for these, and it'll sit about 20 to 25 minutes. And I sealed the quarter trim back there because I'm painting over the paint that was there, and I don't know what it is. I think one of them's original, one might have been a repaint, but I was going to make sure I've got a solid base to start with that's the same color as everything else. And I don't have any reactions with my base coat over whatever's on it now. That's why I sealed those. In case you're wondering, the primer that I put on these also has flex additive in it too. All right, base coat's next. All right, I can go straight into the rockers. I don't need any flex additive. It's not required in the base coat. All right, I got to mix a little more base. I've got a little bit left that might be able to go on the inside of this front rocker trim here, but I'm gonna need some more anyway, so I'm gonna go mix it up. I'll be back for the clear. All right, it's time for clear. The rocker panels will need flex additives, so I'm gonna do those last. I've got them back there in the corner, away from these pieces. I'm gonna do the quarter trim here and the roof beam, as well as the mirrors, and then I'll come back to those after these are finished. Okay, that'll get about 5 minutes, and I'll recoat all those pieces I just shot, and then I'll go get the rockers ready, bring those over here and do those. I'll get one more coat and I'll be back when I'm done. All right, here we are the next day. Didn't get time to come back out last night and video the final product. The other one's a little harder to see, but looks the same. There's mirrors. As far as I can tell, those came out almost perfect. Not too much dust at all, if any. Here's a roof beam. And the quarter trim. I've got to get the black trim pieces there I just redid. I'm going to snap those in with these new clips right here. Those have to be installed onto these pieces, then the black trim will snap onto that. So I've got to get at least this part of the roof buffed out, and I'll probably just do this area too, so when I snap this piece in across the roof here, it won't be in my way. And also I'll probably go ahead and do, if I need to do any buffing down here or underneath the door and the fender there, I'll go ahead and do that before I get the rocker trim in the way there. It'll protrude out this way and be in the way of the buffer. Not much needs to be done down here as far as texture goes. It's slick enough, but if there's any large amounts of dust down there, I'll go ahead and get that out before I get the rocker trim on. I'm going to go ahead and try to get this door buffed out as well, so I can go ahead and build this back up and get the handle and lock back in it. But for right now, I'm going to focus on getting these pieces put together and getting these new hardware pieces put on the rocker trim and get all that ready to go. All right, trying to get some of the trim back on this thing. The door molding that goes across the top here is going to be put on later. But I went ahead and put the mirror on just to get it on the car so it's not laying around and getting damaged. I went ahead and cut down, ran a 1500 grit disc over this really quick just to show me where all the dust nibs were. And there really weren't that many. I'd say probably less than 10. And they were very minor. Then I ran a 3000 grit disc over it wet to start polishing it back out. So that's what this is right here. This is 3000, and all this in here is 3000. That's the finish that'll be in it. It'll just have to get the, I'll just get that haze off of it. I'm trying to leave just a little bit of the texture, just so it can look like it was not cut completely flat, just to get, you know, runs or anything out. I want to show that it was sprayed nice and evenly, and we're not trying to hide anything by cutting it all the way down. I want to leave a little bit of texture left, but right here where I've got the lock in it, I went ahead and compounded and polished all that. And these are just fingerprints and all in here from working on it, but that's the final finish there. There's a trim ring that snaps on the lock, but I'm gonna wait and put that on until later so I don't get any compound or anything under it. I've had to temporarily install these to get them centered in the opening. There's two nuts back in here that bolt the handle in. So I had to put these 2 screws underneath on the handle to mount the handle to it so that I could get the handle centered in this opening and get this gap even along the top of the handle. So now that I've got that set, I can take the handle back off to repaint it, and when I put it back on, it'll be in the same place. So those are just on there temporarily. I'm on this side now. Haven't done any polishing on it yet, but I've got the handle, went ahead and got the handle centered up. So I'll pull those back off when I paint the rest of the black trim that I've got to do. I've already done the black here, but I did that earlier so I could snap those back onto here, and I'll do another batch of satin black later on, but those will just stay there till I get ready to repaint them. But they had to go on now to center them up, to leave the actual inner part of the door handle in the final position. I've got to do the same thing on this door. I'll pull this back off and run the 1500 grit disc over it. That'll highlight all the dust nibs, and I can come back and plane those down with my block and run the 3000 over it. And I'll polish this area out right here, put the lock in here, and have this door built up just like the other one. That's where I am now. I've got this left to put in it. Lock. This is the heating element for the heated lock cylinder. And this is just leftover parts. Here's a trim ring. It's going to go over the lock. That's where we are now. I'm going to get the spoiler and this grill filler painted in the front bumper. This is all ready to paint, just need to sand it out. And all the little pieces, little fillers that go in the front bumper and the rear bumper, and paint all these. I may wait and paint these in that are installed in the bumper and do them all together. We'll see.